The conflict between Russia and Ukraine is a complex and multifaceted issue that has been ongoing since 2014. At its core, the conflict is about the relationship between these two neighboring countries, with Russia seeking to exert its influence over Ukraine, while Ukraine seeks to maintain its sovereignty and independence. Background: the roots of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine can be traced back to the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. Ukraine declared its independence and became a sovereign state, but it remained closely tied to Russia, both economically and politically. Many Ukrainians saw themselves as having a shared identity with their Russian neighbors, and Russian remained the dominant language in many parts of the country. However, tensions began to rise in the early 2000s, as Ukraine began to assert its independence and move closer to the West. In 2004, Ukraine experienced the Orange Revolution, a popular uprising that resulted in the election of a pro-Western president, Viktor Yushchenko. This was seen as a major setback for Russia, which had supported Yushchenko's opponent in the election. In 2010, Ukraine elected a new president, Viktor Yanukovych, who was seen as more pro-Russian. Yanukovych's election was supported by Russia, and he quickly moved to strengthen ties between the two countries. However, his presidency was marked by allegations of corruption and a growing sense of authoritarianism, which led to widespread protests in 2013 and 2014. The conflict begins in February 2014. Yanukovych was overthrown in a popular uprising known as the Euromaidan Revolution. The new government that took power in Ukraine was seen as more pro-Western and anti-Russian, which sparked a reaction from Russia. In March of that year, Russian forces annexed Crimea, a peninsula in Ukraine that had been part of Russia until 1954. The annexation was widely condemned by the international community, and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine escalated. The conflict quickly spread to eastern Ukraine, where pro-Russian separatists declared independence and took control of several cities. The Ukrainian government responded with a military crackdown, which led to a protracted conflict that continues to this day. The conflict has claimed thousands of lives and displaced millions of people, and it shows no signs of abating. Causes of the conflict: there are many factors that have contributed to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. One of the main causes is the question of Ukraine's sovereignty and independence. Russia sees Ukraine as part of its sphere of influence, and it has historically viewed itself as a protector of ethnic Russians living outside its borders. Ukraine, on the other hand, sees itself as a sovereign state that has the right to determine its own future. Another factor that has contributed to the conflict is the question of Ukraine's relationship with the West. Ukraine has sought closer ties with the European Union and NATO, which has been seen as a threat by Russia. Russia has accused the West of trying to encircle it and has sought to counter this by exerting its influence in the region. There are also economic factors at play. Ukraine is a major transit route for Russian gas exports to Europe, which has given Russia significant leverage over Ukraine in the past. Russia has used this leverage to pressure Ukraine on a range of issues, including the price of gas and its relationship with the West. Conclusion: the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is a complex issue that has deep historical roots. It is a conflict that involves questions of sovereignty, identity, and geopolitics. The conflict has been marked by violence and bloodshed, and it has had a profound impact on the people of Ukraine. While there have been efforts to resolve the conflict through diplomatic means, it is clear that the underlying issues will not be easily resolved.